we're connected.
Yay.
So yeah, I'm excited to see who's going to pop on here. Hi, Carly. Hi, CMP. Oh, good. We have people joining. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I am Lisa from We Are the Third Estate, for those of you that don't know me. And I wanted to do a live with Lawrence. I met you probably, I think it was, I started on Substack in April, and
Yeah.
I've done a live with you and Dana. I love your show with you and Dana Dubois, Gen Xe. You guys have a really nice big platform now, which
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm super happy for you guys because you
Thank
do
you.
great work, great.
We
Um,
rebranded actually. We're calling it the Daily Whatever Show, and we rebranded our
oh,
whole thing as the Daily Whatever Show.
Oh, okay, good to know. I did not know that. All
Yeah.
right, excellent. Yeah, so you guys always have great guests on, and I love watching you guys usually in the morning on my drive to work. So very, very fun and informative many times.
Thanks.
But what I really wanted, I got so excited last week because you had a guest on and you guys were talking about astrological transits, which
Yes.
I know there's a lot of people that probably poo poo on that stuff and think it's a bit woo woo. Me personally, I've always loved the occult for whatever reason.
Same.
Although I do live in the world of facts
Right.
for sure, right? Like we do I spend most of my time there, but that does not mean that I am not into the mystical and, like the esoteric.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like I consider myself a sciencey person. Like
Yeah.
if I had to pick up, I would say that I was a scientist at heart and a
Sure.
technologist. But, I think part of being a pattern recognizer is that, we see things, right? And astrology is fascinating because there are so many times that it just sort of lines up and makes you kind of go, isn't that particularly interesting? Isn't that very, very special?
Yes. And I just had a show with Karen Marie Shelton,
Yes.
which she's another one that I had no idea. As a matter of fact, in the chat, while you guys were having that show, because I followed her work. I love her. I think she's amazing.
Yeah, she's
And
cool.
we've talked like back and forth, and this was the first time that we did a live together. But that all came about because in the chat we started having some conversation about the astrological transits, and I was like, oh my god, she knows about this too. So
Yeah.
then privately we DM'd each other and we're talking, and yeah, we had a great show on Monday. I actually have to still put it up on my page, so for those of you that are interested, look out on my page because it'll be up there. I'll put it up tomorrow, and for the replay. But I thought it was great because she's very knowledgeable. I'm definitely not an astrologer, so I want to preface all of this by saying that. Although there are certain key points that I definitely grab onto, like you said, pattern recognition
Hmm.
and the uncanny accuracy of things because I've been following it for especially over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to Karen about this. And so my thing is I feel like I am a true agnostic
Hmm.
in terms of like I'm not religious at all. I'm more spiritual, if anything. And I just have always maintained like for the if you can't quantifiably say that something out there exists like a higher power or whatever,
Right.
you also can't quantifiably say that it doesn't, right?
Right.
So that's like my agnostic,
Yeah. Yeah.
bent there, right? And so we just had like a really fascinating discussion because I'm really interested in mundane astrology. And mundane astrology is the study of current events, world events,
Yep.
and also could be astrological birth charts of countries. Like we have one, United States, like all the countries have
Oh,
it.
friend, we have more than
Yes.
one. Let me
Yeah.
tell you.
Right.
We've got the Sibley chart, and then we've got oh so many more.
Oh my God. This is so great because I didn't really know that. I know that a lot of people use the Constitution signing chart is one of my friends. Actually, she's on Substack and I'll send you her link. She's amazing. Her name is Denise Siegel. She's a
Nice.
great astrologer and she's become my friend really that now over the years. I found her on YouTube in 2020 and she was now hindsight, so spot on. She's called like everything based on the astrological interpretations. Now, one thing about this also, has to do with not necessarily the astrology being incorrect. Sometimes it's the interpreter that
Sure.
is right, so that could be an issue, which is something that is not a definitive science at all by any means,
Right.
because a lot of it has to do with, the interpretation of the chart, although the transits are the transits and those don't change. And there's astronomy and there are degrees. There's a friend of mine once said, yeah, like he was like,
Yeah.
well, somebody's going to have to crunch the numbers for me. This all sounds pretty plausible, but I don't know. And I'm like, and there are numbers to be crunched.
Right.
So there is very specificity to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so we're interested in the same things, right? Like, I'm
Yes.
very interested in, like, mundane astrology and current transits and, like, when you talk about, like, the charts of nations, um, yeah, so there's the Sibley chart, which is the famous, signing of the Declaration of Independence,
Okay. Okay.
in Philadelphia, July 4th, 1776. Like, people have had like, scholarly arguments about like what time, exactly what time and what is the rising and they, try to interpret, but there are charts beyond that, right? Because
Mhm.
when you think about it, so that was like uh we anthropomorphize too much, like we're humans, we kind of naturally sort of project humanity onto everything. And so we think about like a country and we're like, oh, a country should have a birth chart too. For the US, it's the declaration, signing of the Declaration of Independence. Sure. Well, but actually, there was this entire interregnum after the Revolutionary War where the country was being run under the Articles of Confederation that
Right.
died, right? And then the Constitution of the United States wasn't created really until 1787 and 88.
Right.
And then there's another famous chart that is 21 June 1788, which is, I forget, New Hampshire or Rhode Island, one of the states, the ninth state that triggered the law that basically said the Constitution is now law. It's now in effect. The ninth state has
Ah,
said yes. So there's that chart. And then there's the March 4th, 1789 chart, which is the moment at which the federal government came into existence on the 4th of March at 8:01 in the morning on the 4th of March, 1789, in New York City, which was our
mhm,
first capital. And
mhm.
so there's a chart for that, right? And so
Yes.
so we think about like, oh, well, we're humans. Humans have a birth chart. The moment you got spanked and took your first breath, that's your birth chart. Well, countries maybe don't have something quite as clean or neat as that. There's
Correct.
like the Sibley chart, which is the moment of intent. And certainly we
Right.
could read a lot of, interesting kind of stuff onto that. But then there are these other charts about like the moments that the government actually began to function, right? And the moment that the government under the Constitution began to function. And so it's really interesting because in the Sibley chart, I'm just jumping right in, Lisa. You're gonna
No,
have,
go ahead,
you're gonna have
please.
to rein me in.
No, please.
Like, so in the Sibley chart, Pluto is at like 27 degrees of Capricorn, right?
Okay.
Bear in mind, Pluto hadn't been discovered yet. So technically,
Right.
you could say like Pluto isn't in the Sibley chart at all because they didn't know it was there. But we know, thanks to kind of
Mhm.
backwards ephemerides, that Pluto is at 27 degrees, which means the country had its Pluto return, its first Pluto return in 2022
Mhm.
when Pluto was back at 27 degrees of Capricorn. Well, the thing is, humans don't have Pluto returns, right? A Pluto return takes about 248 years to occur. Humans don't yet live that long, so we don't have one. We don't even get close.
Mhm.
But long lived things like buildings or monuments or countries do. And so the United States had its first Pluto return in basically the year 2022. Well, a Pluto return is about massive transformation, right? Like if a Saturn return is about checking to make sure the structure of your life is working and, are you a fully grown adult? And then when your second Saturn return hits, are you transitioning into,
Mhm.
cronehood or old manhood, like are you doing that? If you're lucky enough to live for your third Saturn return, are you ready to cross to the other side? Humans have Saturn returns. Obviously, they're big major deals in our lives. And of course, the country has Saturn returns. It's had,
Right.
dozens at this point,
Correct.
but it's so far only had one Pluto return. And the Pluto return is about absolute transformation, the absolute, reinvention, reconfiguration. Things do not look the same at the beginning as they look at the end, kind of thing. It's like a big Pluto transit in your chart as a human. When Pluto
Yep.
transits a key place in your chart, you're looking at that place in your life being absolutely transformed such
Mhm.
that it is unrecognizable at the beginning and the end, right? Like when it's over, you look back and you're like, God damn, I can't
Yeah.
believe, you know, whatever.
And also Pluto is death and rebirth,
Right, right.
which is a huge theme for Pluto. And it's so interesting that you say that this is what you started with. My friend Denise is she's adamant about using the Constitution signing chart. That to her, in her interpretation, that is what she gloms onto. And she thinks the Pluto return, and I don't remember exactly when, but I'm going to put the link in the replay of this
Nice.
because you will find it fascinating. She's a very, very prolific in all of her writing on Substack. She does lives all the time. She's awesome. So, anyway, but she thinks our actual Pluto return will not be until like in the next couple of years, like the real critical part of it.
No, I
And
100%. I
okay,
I mean, that was the place that I was going to, is that,
yeah,
like, if you look at those later charts, Pluto's at 17 or 18 degrees of Aquarius. We don't
eh,
get to 17 or 18 degrees of Aquarius with Pluto this time around until 2034,
right,
when it starts, right?
right.
So,
That's it.
I think we are in the middle of this, like, giant chthonic Pluto period right now,
Hmm.
and it is, the transformation of our ideals as a nation and the transformation of the literal instantiation of the country as well, right? So
Yes.
I think, the way that I've started to think about it is we're in the middle of this period of upheaval, and what we're experiencing with Trump and with MAGA and with
Yeah.
the Epstein files and with all of this stuff happening at once is all of the lies, all of the old power structures, all of the, previous ways of like the patriarchy, the white patriarchy is basically being stripped to its bones. It is
Yep.
dying in front of our eyes. It is clinging to power and it is fighting mightily to remain in
Hmm.
power, but it is doomed. It cannot survive this moment. And we will be building into something different, and all of us are along for the ride, and I think we're smack in the middle of it right now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That is absolutely true. And the one thing in terms of what I wanted to say too, when I started following Denise in 2020, she actually has videos before that talking about in 2019, 2020, 2019, there was going to be this massive disruption, but she did not know what it was.
Mhm.
And she was just like, she even, I remember her using the words like some sort of a shutdown, something governmental. And she actually said shutdown.
Right,
And
crazy.
she
Yeah,
was
that's
even, oh,
amazing.
it was insane. And then she was talking about something like a shock to the system, and everybody is going to be affected. And she had several videos about this. And then lo and behold, she thought it was going to be financial.
Mhm.
That is the one thing that she was speculating about. But
That's
that's one
coming.
thing about, I know. That's one thing about the astrological interpretations. But then it ended up being pandemic. And she's like, my God, that didn't even cross my mind. But holy shit, here we are.
Right.
But in terms of Pluto, another thing that I find fascinating about this whole thing, like I said, I'm not an astrologer at all. And you seem to be very knowledgeable, like Karen and like Denise, that you guys have like the numbers and all of that stuff. I find the themes very, very interesting. And I'm
Yeah.
very philosophical just by nature. So then I start to like speculate and start to like, again, the pattern recognition. We are in the same signatures, Pluto-wise, Saturn, Aries also, like the
Mhm.
Neptune and Saturn and Aries
Oh, for
of the
sure.
of the Civil War and the American Revolution and
Yep.
the French Revolution.
Yeah.
So it's like a triple whammy of all of these layers going on. And Pluto in Aquarius in particular, Aquarius is the people. It's of the people. Like
Yeah.
whereas Capricorn is more like institutions like Pluto was in Capricorn, corporations, institutions, rules, things like that. Aquarius is the people rising.
Yep.
And that is what I'm like. I just cannot believe like how uncannily accurate like all of this stuff is. It's crazy. And it's not anything, like I said, a direct science, because sometimes a transit can hit, but there's like shadow periods. The same thing with like a Mercury retrograde, right? Like
Sure.
things could happen a little bit before, things might happen a little bit after. And that's one of the things too. You were talking about the financial stuff coming up. I'm just like waiting for the shoe to drop
Yep.
in the
It
spring, in the
it's
summer.
coming. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's coming, and it's coming relatively soon, right?
Right.
And, everything that people are kind of whispering about, the fact that there's an AI bubble, that the
Yep.
AI bubble is bigger than the, mortgage securities bubble in 2008. Like, all of that is true. All of
Yes.
that is real. All of that is coming. It's coming at a moment in time where, thanks to Trump and his
Hmm. Hmm.
administration, the US dollar is weaker, per, both literally and perceptually in the world than it's ever been. Yeah, you're like, we're absolutely fucked. There is a
Yeah.
depression coming. And
Oh,
sorry, I don't mean to,
yeah.
I
No, you
swear.
got to be real. No, please don't apologize to me. I have no problem with that. And also the same thing with, I mean, I am an idealist. I can get into like more of a hopeful like outlook of things, but at the same time, I think that can be detrimental if you lean too much into hopium. I think it's very important to be real
Yeah.
and realistic. I mean, of course, you don't want to be, catastrophizing and fear mongering, of course not. But at the same time, I'm definitely don't shy away from,
Well,
having conversations that, yeah,
it is a hard balance, right?
it
Because,
is.
on the one hand, like, you look at astrologically, like, you look at what's coming and you're like, okay, I am reading this as a period of upheaval and transition, of
Yeah.
systems transformation, where things are being reclaimed. Power is being reclaimed by the people. The government is being restructured to more directly serve the people.
Right.
It is evolving away from a patriarchal, racist, misogynistic,
Hmm.
framework into something more egalitarian. Great. And when I look at history, like, you and I have talked about the fourth turning and all the big cycles, right?
Hmm.
I mean, those time periods, certainly, like, did we win World War II? Yes. Is it great that we won? Yes. Did we build better structures? Yes. Did millions and millions of people die in that war? Yes. Like, same with the Civil War, same with the American Revolution. Like, we are in the moment of transformation into a different way of being, and I think it will be better. But
Yes.
I think we've got to be real about the fact that if we are truly entering a period of economic devastation that is potentially going to be the equal or surpass the Great Depression, that sucked.
Oh, yeah.
I like, forgive me for simplifying. I read my
No, but you're
history. It
right.
sucked to live
You're
through
right.
that. Like, we're gonna go through a period like that. It's gonna
Yeah.
suck.
Oh, yeah, and we have no idea, like, that's it. I mean, you already know, we've had conversations before. My family is, from Italy, and my grandmother, I remember her telling me stories even as a young child, went through, fascist Italy when, under Mussolini, and then my grandfather, who ended up he was my step-grandfather, so he came to America earlier, and he enlisted in the army to go fight fascism overseas, like, so he came here. I heard the firsthand accounts of going through that time period, and we are so not prepared because we have no idea what
We
that
are
kind of
not
life
prepared.
is. Yeah, we have no idea, like the sacrifices and the things. Even though I feel like we will rise to the occasion because it's like human nature.
Right,
Unfortunately, there will be a lot of real dark times,
right.
ahead. And one thing that I find fascinating, again, in terms of this Pluto, one thing about the upheaval and the rebuilding, like the decimation, destruction, and rebuilding of systems. Also, karma. A lot of
Mhm.
karmic things, like you're talking about the racism and misogyny and all of these things, like the income inequality. It's all of these things that were baked into the founding of our country
Right.
and all the way through that has never really been dealt with, even though like civil rights happened. Yeah, of course. But at the same time, there's still all of this underlying structures and things that are still happening that have never really, we've never really confronted. And I feel like that is a big part of this Pluto return
Oh, for
for our
sure.
country that's going to be. And, and I'm not sure how much you look into Trump's chart or if you have.
I will tell you the truth. I hate him so fucking much. I
Yeah.
will not
Oh,
like I have not looked at his chart. It's been a very willful decision on my part, right? Like I read all this stuff, like I know enough from reading other people's work
sure.
and during the election, all the folks who are like, well, it kind of sort of looks like Kamala's supposed to win somehow, but Trump actually does win.
Mhm.
Um, like all that
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
I'm aware of, and also I fucking hate him. I
Oh,
really have looked at his chart.
every day there's a new fresh reason for me to hate him.
Right.
Right when I think I have reached my limit. I don't think I will ever reach my limit.
Oh,
Every
yeah.
single day there's something
Yeah,
that
and
makes
we
it
for the
even
rest of our
worse.
lives, we will be
Yes,
excavating new horrors. I was just thinking
exactly.
about this kinda half watching the news earlier, the new fresh thing about, oh, there are 50 documents that are missing from the Epstein files that all appear to be about Trump raping a 13-year-old.
Yes. And punching her and all that. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I was thinking, like, the thought came into my head, I'm literally going to hear about this for the rest of my life. Like, there will be a moment 20 years from now where I'll be watching the news and they'll be like, shocking new revelations that during the Trump era, he did blah, 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 blah. And, and we're all just going to be like, well, I kind of knew it. I kind of knew they were
Yes.
murdering people by the side of the road and not telling us about it, and now here,
Oh,
yeah. So
oh my
I'm
God.
braced.
Yeah, me too. Me too, because I am not surprised and I don't put anything past these people. I mean, it is just absolutely disgusting. But in terms of his chart, from what I know, again, I'm not an astrologer, so I can't give you perfect degrees like how you guys do.
Hmm.
However, I do know that the way he's very interestingly tied to the American chart,
Hmm.
which is crazy. And there's almost something about the way that everything has panned out and whether people believe in fate or not, this feels fated to me.
Oh, friend,
Like he is perfect to be where he is.
he is the devil to our,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
he is the test. He
Yes.
is the test that we are all currently failing,
Yup.
and that Pluto and Saturn and all, like we haven't even really started to talk about yet the fact
Yeah.
that, there was this Saturn Neptune conjunction, right? It
Yes.
happens once every 36 years.
Mhm.
And the we it happened this time at 0 degrees of Aries,
Mm.
at the 0 point, at the instantiation of the chart of the zodiac. It is an entirely new karmic cycle. Like, literally, we don't have, like, not in recorded history did ever before. I mean, obviously, in the course of history, they have been
Sure.
conjunct at 0 degrees of Aries, but not in human history, like, not in our
Yeah.
recorded, human history. This is the beginning of a cycle. This is the beginning of something new. And at the same time, um, Uranus has moved into Gemini.
Yes.
At the same time, oh God, right, Pluto has done its transition from Capricorn into
Into
Aquarius
Aquarius.
to have four transpersonal planets, outer planets that are generational in nature, making major shifts all within like
Crazy.
a year or two of each other.
Crazy.
It's a big deal. It is literally like, it is not just sort of like, oh, it's the beginning of a new cycle. It's a new
Mhm.
era. It's a new
Right.
epoch, right? It is a completely new something that we haven't named yet, and it is
Right.
all happening. It's all beginning now in
Yeah.
this. We're soaking in it.
And you know what's really crazy? Which I've always known this about my chart, but I specifically was talking about this with Karen on our live on Monday. I have I have several placements in my chart that transition from the latest degree into 0 degrees.
Mhm,
And one of them is my ascendant is Pisces, 29 degrees, but I have Aries in my first house at 0 degrees.
mhm.
Jupiter and Aries in my first house. So Neptune is going to
Do
be
you know what
crossing
that
there.
degree is called? Do you want fun
Yes,
astrological
please.
vocabulary?
Yes, please.
The 29th degree of a sign is called the anaretic degree.
Oh, I did read about this.
It is the distilled essence of
Wow.
everything that has come before in that sign. This is your final exam
Wow.
in this particular way of being in this sign.
Wow. That's interesting. So it's just that's just like on a personal note, but we're talking about the mundane stuff, which I really don't know exactly what that means personally for me yet. But we did talk about it and it was really interesting. Like Karen's really, really knowledgeable. But in terms of this for our current events, I just find it so insane that even the way that Biden was in as an interim, like 2017 was the first Trump administration, right? Before this regime now. Biden came in almost like a little break, and now here he is back in when we're going to be at the 250th anniversary of
Mhm.
the country. And he keeps bragging about this. We're being like, well, I guess it's a good thing I wasn't there 4 years ago because I wouldn't have been here now. And I'm like, I don't know if that's something that you should really be proud of because I don't know exactly how that's going to shake out for you, my friend.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think Trump is some kind of fated
Yeah.
thing,
Oh, crazy.
and, like, I was thinking about this today, right? Like, with the economic numbers and, there's some things that presidents can and can't do, right? Like, economic trends are really hard for everyone thinks the president can kind of grab onto the tiller and steer the
Mhm.
ship, and it turns really, adroitly, and that's not true. And I was thinking, okay, like, let's game this out a little bit. If Kamala had been elected, she'd be in office right now. The Epstein stuff would be coming out. And they would be releasing it way more
Oh,
easily than they currently are. The all the economic shit. I mean, maybe not the tariff piece of it, obviously, but the other economic shit, the advent of AI and just kind of this moment of ignition that we're hitting, it would still
yeah,
probably kind of be happening, and she would be getting the blame
that's right. That's
in
right.
spades,
You're
right?
right.
And I keep thinking it had to happen this way. Like it had to
Yeah,
happen that Trump was the entity in place at this moment in time so that
exactly.
we can do our big karma that we've
Right.
all got to do as a country, which is finally deal with the fact that this nation was built on land stealing and slaveholding and the literal subjugation of people and
Yep.
animals in the land
That's right.
at the whims of white men
Mhm.
and and the promise under which we were founded, the very pretty words have never been true.
Correct.
They've never been true for everybody,
Mhm.
and that and there is something really important in the arc of human history about the United States of America, and we are either at the moment where we go full on dark side,
Right.
or we conquer our demons and we go like full light side. I know
Yes.
what I'm rooting for, but
For
I
real.
honestly think that Trump is like the Palpatine. Trump is the
Yeah.
like like some archetype like him had to exist. And I mean, it's like Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
It's
It's crazy. There's another astrologer that I like to listen to, and he's on, YouTube. His name is Robert Cosmar, if anybody is interested, but he keeps calling and kept calling for years, since around 2020 when I found him. He calls Trump a tool of the universe
Mhm.
because he was like, unfortunately, in order for there to be a critical mass of awakening where people are not in denial, unfortunately, things have to get dark. It
Yeah.
didn't have to be this way. Like we could have, this critical mass could have happened earlier if people
Yeah.
were more inclined to pay attention and listen to the signs that were unfolding before them. But his assessment is that's not going to happen, unfortunately, and he is there like on this divine mission, basically, to be the most horrible entity that, one of the most horrible entities that has ever lived.
Yeah.
Ugh. And what I find interesting about his chart also is that he is starting to get into the misfortune part of it, because all of his life up until now, the way that I have heard it being read is that he his Teflon Don wasn't an accident. It was actually like written in his natal chart.
Right.
Something about like he had a Jupiter Dasa and he had that for
Yeah,
like
yeah.
years
It
and
it
years.
yeah, it was the yes,
Yes,
Jupiter is the absolute ruler of his chart.
yes,
Again, I haven't really read his chart, but I've heard and read other things, and he has been protected through his entire life
correct.
until right now
Yes.
by Jupiter, and this is the moment where it shifts for him in his chart, in his progressed lunations and his, progressed solar chart. Everything changes here, and so he is literally going to live Greek mythology. Like the name Trump will ultimately mean something in the same way that the names of the Greek gods mean things, because it will be a person who basically could not fail, no matter how lazy, how incompetent, how craven, how greedy, how horrible he was, could not fail until a particular moment in time, after which he is nothing but failure and will forever be regarded as nothing but failure. And that's now. That's
Yes.
this moment in time. We're watching the worm turn in real
Mhm.
life.
I heard, or I read actually, that it was February 17th, the eclipse that just happened
Yep.
was the actual starting point of this era that you're
Yep.
talking about.
Yep.
And again, find it completely fascinating that we are in this moment where he, to me, makes me think of like everything that has gone wrong and was ever wrong with our country, just like rolled up, like he's like a fruit roll up of a person, like everything that has ever gone wrong, or the disgusting parts, the dark parts, the unequal parts of our country. That's him, like the living embodiment of it. And I just get the sense that as the destruction happens with our country before the rebuilding, he is also going to crash and burn. But the
Mhm.
country will be rebuilt, but he won't.
Oh
The
yeah.
family, the Trump name will not.
Well, right. And this is, I think, again, we started at the beginning talking about nations are not people. People are not
Right.
nations. People
Right.
have very finite lives. Maybe we get 100 years, right? Maybe we get 110 if you're
Mhm.
incredibly ridiculously lucky, but you never touch your Pluto return.
Right.
Countries are different. Countries, like Saturn returns are kind of like we experience Mercury retrogrades.
Mhm.
We've all been through hundreds of Mercury retrogrades at this point in our lives. Like, do they suck sometimes? Sure. But do they break us? No.
Right.
Saturn returns are the things that break us, and Pluto returns are things that are bigger than we could ever dream of. And this country's going through a Pluto return, and he can't survive it. He literally cannot. A human
Right.
cannot pass through that gate and survive.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. And especially with what is at stake right now.
Yeah.
And that's one thing too that a lot of political pundits, I keep saying, like, I just don't understand what is happening here. Like, why is he making these decisions? Why? It's almost like I'm like, the astrology really explains it, which is crazy. And this
Yeah.
is something that they would absolutely never believe. They'll be like, you people are
Oh,
crackpots.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure, like, I'm not gonna turn on, Ms. Now, right?
right.
And
Right.
watch, Nicole Wallace talk to
Oh
us
man.
about the Pluto return and Trump's chart, right? Like, it's never gonna happen. Rachel Maddow's never gonna,
Yeah.
do a special podcast series on the astrology of Donald Trump's chart and how it foretold everything.
Yeah.
But, like, it's interesting to be a person who's curious about this stuff and actually pay attention to it. And again, right? Like, we're pattern recognizers. And
Yes.
I think part of the reason that, we're really drawn to things like the fourth turning and
Yes.
the work of Strauss and Howe and
Yes.
generational theories, because it really exists. Like, those patterns really exist.
Yep.
And, and there's a lot of them that are happening simultaneously. We've got We've got the fourth turning is happening at the same time that the Pluto return is happening. The same time there's this massive shift in the outer planets. At the same time that the year of the fire horse is happening. Like
Oh, yeah,
there's a
that's
lot.
right. That's another thing. Yeah, you're right. And with Strauss and Howe, what was fascinating to me, because I have another astrologer friend that was telling me, like, oh, no, they were using astrology. And I'm like, but what if they weren't?
Mhm.
I can't definitively say whether they were or were not. I mean, I know that they did use the unit of time, the Roman saeculum, which was the 80 to 90 years
Sure.
between, right? Like, with all the four turnings that are within that. And is that 80 to 90 years? Is that the Uranus Saturn? Is that the Uranus return? Or which one is it that's around
It's a
80?
Uranus return, right? So
Uranus. Okay.
Uranus's orbit is approximately 81 years. And
Okay.
this is all squishy, right? Because
Yes.
like people love to talk about Saturn returns and it's like, look, Saturn's orbit is 29.46 Earth years. But thanks to orbital dynamics and parallax and retrogradation and things like that, you could start your Saturn return as early as 28 and three quarters. You could start your
Wow.
Saturn return as late as, 29 and a half, almost 30, right? And so when we're talking about outer planets, like, yes, like Uranus's orbit is 81 years, but there's also we observers on Earth are always going to see like everything retrogrades in the solar system except the
Right.
sun and the moon, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
every other planet that we look at retrogrades because it's just our perception as observers on Earth looking at another moving object in space.
Mm-hmm. 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 That's right. Yeah. So, like, even with them, I just found it crazy how uncannily accurate it was. The major events that they talked about in their book, the original, The Fourth Turning, the one that was written in the 90s,
Right.
and how it tracked even as it went through the centuries. Because I thought they went back even to the 1600s,
Right.
like,
Because
during that.
their premise is that English history and American history are the same track, right? Because we
Correct.
are basically spawn of England,
Right.
that we are on the same cycle, right?
Yes. That's right. That's right. So, and then it lines up astrologically with the major events of, like the Revolutionary War and the Civil War and all of these things. I mean, it is just absolutely fascinating. So, fast forward to now, and the things that are being foretold, well, not even foretold, because it's not necessarily like a psychic thing. It really is just the astrological, the reading of the astrological transits coming up.
Mhm.
And yeah, so what have you been hearing about, like, financial wise? That's the thing that I am the most worried about right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's really bad.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yes, yes, yes.
It's really
Yes.
bad.
I love the voices that you do too, just really quickly. And
It's
another
just this
thing,
little soundboard that I got, and
oh my God, it's so funny. It's it's so good. But let me tell you too, just your natural voice, I keep forgetting to tell you anytime we're on, you have like the perfect broadcasting voice.
oh, thank you.
It's so
I,
good.
like I heard that my whole life, and I was like, cool,
It's
but
great.
how do I break into that? What do I do? And now I just had to be old enough that
And now here
everyone
you are.
started podcasting, and now,
Yes.
and now here we
Yes.
are.
Yeah, now it's
Yeah, I mean,
perfect. Yeah.
I look, um, I think that as a part of this overall Pluto transformation cycle that we are entering, I haven't really astrologically kind of lined think Karen would be better at this because she's super into financial
Yeah,
astrology.
she is. She
But,
is.
you know, we're at a place. I mean, this is just me sort of riffing on my kind of general political philosophy right now. Unregulated capitalism is extractive by its nature, right? The doom that Milton Friedman visited
Yeah.
upon all of us by saying that the only purpose of a corporation is to create shareholder value has fucked us like 19 ways from Sunday,
Mhm.
because that became a mantra. Like I would argue that if we were looking at the root of this, and I know people will push back, but I think of Reagan, right? And
Oh,
Milton
yeah.
Friedman, and
Me and you are right. Yes,
all like
absolutely.
that whole Reagan revolution, and the the innovative ways of thinking about trickle down economics and inflation and everything that came from Volcker and all of those folks in the Reagan administration,
Yep.
that put us on this path, right? And that was also the rise of Jack Welch, right, at GE, the ultimate Friedmanist who was all about cracking GE apart and turning each piece into the maximum value and losing, the soul, if you will, of the corporation and the higher intent and all of those pieces. Like, we're at a point now where extractive, unregulated capitalism has gotten so completely and utterly out of hand that we are all expendable resources. The
Oh yeah.
Epstein files is literally just a luxury item trafficking ring, where creepy old men treated young girls as luxury commodities to be kidnapped and raped and traded. And that is like the clearest representation. Like, never has capitalism been more, you know, clearly and vulgarly defined for us, because in shitification, which we all see in all of our technological tools, in all of our, in everything, that is extractive capitalism. This late stage capitalism moment that we're in, it is also a cycle that must die,
Yep.
because
That's
it
right.
is hit um the kind of farthest, well, my worry is that it hasn't hit the farthest extreme, and that, we're going to go back to slave trading and, all of us being numbered devices that are just a part of the panopticon, and we're tracked by flock cameras from the moment we leave our home, and, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But sorry, I'm really diatribing here, Lisa. So let me
No,
stop for
please.
a minute
No, no,
and
no,
let you get a
please, no.
word in edgewise.
No, no, but I completely agree with you because those are things that I'm very concerned with as well. Like, how dark are things going to get? Because we see them becoming more and more egregious. And it's like the f- you I sense that they literally think that they are above any accountability at all. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that you and everybody in our audience right now agrees with that. I mean, we see it happening and it is just getting worse and worse. And when is the breaking point to that?
I,
And
I think the
right?
breaking point is this year, to be perfectly
Mm,
honest. Like, I think the eclipse that we just saw
yeah,
and the big transits, especially the ingress of Saturn and Neptune. So
yeah.
Neptune, Neptune is illusion and dreams, right? Like, Neptune is the representative of, like, Neptune in our charts is the place where we are most connected to God. It is also the place where
Mystically.
we house, right, our highest hopes and ideals and dreamiest dreams. And it's the place where we are most fooled. It is the place where we are under illusion, where we are living in fog and sand and cannot truly see the world around us. It is all of those things wrapped up together, right?
It's interesting that you say that before. I'm sorry to interrupt you right here, but I find it crazy that Trump's rise happened in Neptune and Pisces.
Yeah.
And that is when the disillusionment, post-truth, all of that stuff was on high, and his ability to be able to pull the wool over people's eyes
Hmm.
basically with his, the way that he speaks and his fire hose of lies worked and kept working. But now we have transitioned into Neptune and Aries. Please, I am sorry that I interrupted you, but
No,
right
God,
when you were saying
yeah,
that
it's
about
great.
Neptune and Pisces,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
just made me
so
think of that.
Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces, right? Like, Neptune
Yeah.
in Pisces is like, yay, daddy's home, but it's
Right.
the daddy of lies in the sign of dreams and illusion and wishful thinking and please con me again,
Yep.
con man,
How weird.
right? It's like
Mhm.
I'm gonna, yeah, and yes, it has now moved. Neptune is now extremely uncomfortable in Aries, because Aries is a fire sign. It is action oriented. It is about being dynamic. It may not always be right, because
Mm.
Aries would rather shoot first and aim
Yes.
later,
Yeah.
but
True.
it is about action, which is the opposite. And if you think about an object that is shrouded in clouds and fog being suddenly ripped into blazing sunshine, it is not happy, right? It is not comfortable.
Right. Right.
And simultaneous to this, you've got Saturn. Saturn is in each sign for approximately 2 years because Saturn's, entire transit of the zodiac, as we said, 29.46 years. So Saturn is in each sign about 2 years. We had 2 years of Saturn. And I think of Saturn as sort of like um, I don't know why I've always thought of Saturn as like the mean building inspector, right? Like,
Lessons. I always think of lessons.
right,
Yeah.
lessons and and like the stringent accountant, right? The
Yep.
very, we're playing no games with our taxes accountant. But I like to think of Saturn as the mean but serious building inspector who
Mm.
will come through and like your Saturn return to me, like the encapsulation is if you built your house right, if you followed code and you
That's right.
built your foundation solidly and you didn't cut any corners, Saturn will come through and he may huffity puff and may scare you, but he's not going to knock your house down. But God forbid you cut corners and you didn't build your foundation right. That building inspector is going to read you for filth. He's going to knock down your walls and he's going to make you do it all over again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
That's a good
Saturn,
analogy.
incredibly not comfortable in Pisces, again, dreams and illusions and hopes and fears and etc.
Mhm.
But Saturn is also equally not super happy in Aries because it is now moving into an area of dynamism and that sort of shoot first, ask questions later mentality of Aries that is also not really Saturn's jam. So
Mm.
Saturn, is, I think, and this Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, it's this giant reset that's basically saying all of your hopes and dreams must be codified and submitted in triplicate. And Saturn is going to proof them all and approve them. And unless you've done it right, you basically are going to keep doing it over and over again until you finally get things right. Um, but because Aries is action, you can't not do it, right? It's
Right.
like these are not the nice PE teachers who, because you hate PE, they let you like sit on the grass and read Jane Austen novels.
Yeah.
Not that I'm speaking from personal experience. Uh, you know, they make you go fucking run the laps just like
Right.
everybody else, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
like that's the place that we're in. Like you've got to step up and you've got to show out and you've got to prove that you're at least, getting getting the big picture right or you're not going to make it through.
Right. Right. Yeah. That is one thing about Saturn as well, like what I was saying about teaching lessons or giving you the opportunity to be able to find out what that is and to get serious.
Right.
And it's about getting serious, and also, I was always under the impression that if you built your house right, like you were saying, Saturn rewards you. Like, not necessarily like they're gonna bestow you, like, with a magic wand, but basically that you will be rewarded because of the hard work that you put in and the seriousness.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and if I can kind of
Oh,
improv riff
please.
off of you, I like yes, like, but it's the kind of reward of like, good job, Wilson. You did an admirable job on that account, and now, as a reward, we're giving you 3 times the workload because you proved
Okay.
you can handle it, right? Like that's
Yes.
Saturn, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Saturn, if you pass the inspection and you built your house right, Saturn he is not going to knock it down. Like you're not going to get a gold star and an achievement award. You're going to get more work. Like
More
you're going to
work.
get cool.
Yeah.
You proved that you could do that. Like if you pass your first Saturn return, it's basically like congratulations, kid. You're actually an adult. You have proved to us that you are well and truly an adult.
Yes.
Welcome to the world of adult responsibility for
I
the
thought that
next
happens
30
around
years.
27. Yeah, around 27, 28. That
Well,
will
yeah.
happen.
So
Yeah.
at 27, you
Mhm.
have your progressed lunar, or 28 is your progressed lunar return. 27 is, there's a whole series of things. And Jesus, I can't believe I just spaced on this. So 27 is, fuck, I don't remember. It's something important. I think it's
Yeah, it's
like, it's
big.
maybe like a Uranus, uh, square or something, right?
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah.
And then you have your progressed lunar return at 28, which is basically like Have you gotten your emotions under control? I don't know. We're going to
Mm,
find out together. And then you have your Saturn return at like 28 and a half to 29 and a half, 30, like somewhere in there, depending on orbital dynamics. And some people get lucky and they have one Saturn return. Um, and, because Saturn is moving fast and direct and does not retrograde across their natal
mm,
Saturn. And some people get really unlucky, like me, and Saturn moves really, really slowly at the moment of
mm.
your Saturn return, and it crosses your
Wow.
Saturn, and then it stops and it retrogrades and it crosses back again, and then it
That's
stops and it goes
intense.
direct and it crosses back again, and you have three Saturn returns over the course of a year and a half.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds intense.
It's intense, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, basically like 27, 28, 29, on to 30, that's your big test, your big initiation into modern adulthood. And then, you get to 58, 58 and a half, 59, on to 60, and you get your second Saturn return. And that's basically like, great, in theory, accumulated all this wealth or did whatever you were going to do, whatever wealth means to you.
Mhm.
And you kind of you made it through adulthood. You're about to enter into your retirement years, in theory. um do you have the discernment to plan well for that?
Mm, interesting. And then the next one, the last one, probably then would be in your 80s?
Yeah, so the last
Yeah.
Saturn return that most people have, I mean, I don't think anyone has had a fourth one.
Yeah, right.
uh
Exactly.
but yeah, the last one is in your like 81, I think, 80, 81,
Which is
essentially.
where Trump is, like, right now,
Right.
right?
So
Yeah,
he's having his third Saturn return
yeah.
at the same time that all this other stuff is happening. So,
Interesting, interesting.
yeah.
And you wanna talk about somebody who has not built their house, their
Right.
foundation correct?
Right. Right.
Oh
If
my
ever mean old Saturn was going to take somebody to task, it should be Trump, and it should be
right,
for this go around for sure.
right, right, right. It's just wild. Absolutely wild, like, how all of this stuff tracks.
Yeah.
I just had to, like, take it in for a second. I'm just like I
Yeah.
love it. I just
In
find it
summary, we
fascinating.
are all in for even more of a wild ride for the next 10 years.
Correct. And that's the thing too, like, we don't know how that is going to culminate and how it is going to come to pass, because there's also in the rebuilding phase, I'm sure that's another thing that concerns me as well, is a lot of back and forth and trial and error, and God only knows, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of what leaders are going to come up, and, who is going to be able to execute whatever plans that we wanna put in place, like, for equality and, for protection of all peoples, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
we're in it for the long haul.
right.
Yeah.
That's definitely a thing to think about. The impending collapse of financial markets. It seems like there are just a huge number of big banker types in the Epstein files. It seems like um, the AI bubble is as big or bigger than the 2008, financial
Right.
collapse. Uh, I think we're in for a really disastrously bad financial time period, and I think it probably starts this year.
Yeah.
Like I don't. There's something in June. I don't remember what the transit is, or if something ingresses into
Yeah,
something, but
there is something in the summer for sure. In the
yeah,
spring and definitely in the summer.
yeah. And so,
Mm,
I mean, I look at AI, right? And I mean, I use AI, like I've used it for my work, and
sure.
being in corporate America, it kind of gets forced down your throat. Um, but to have OpenAI, Sam Altman, the CEO of
Oh, yeah.
OpenAI,
Oh,
say kind of off the cuff a couple of months ago, we just need 3 trillion more dollars in investment in data centers and electricity generation, and then we'll have a viable product.
right.
Uh, like, are you kidding me? $3 trillion in investment so this one company can have a viable product, and
Yeah.
every other AI company is basically at the same point where they each need 3 trillion more. Where, pray tell, is this money coming from?
For real. Yeah, that's insane. Oh my god. I
Yeah,
mean, just like the dystopian plans that these people have too, on top of everything else.
right, right. I'm building
Woo!
a bunker and creating a
Yeah,
techno-feudalist state where, where Elon Musk is like the chosen gene spreader who's
right.
impregnating all,
Oh
like, come
god.
on. No, thank
Yeah,
you.
for real. And
All right.
like I
I
said,
I don't know Nick G, dude on a couch, but he just quoted one of my favorite quotes from Star Trek of all time when the aliens are like, "You are ugly bags of mostly water."
oh, I see that. Hi, Nick. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean
funny.
that's as good a
Yeah.
description as anything else, I suppose.
God, I'm telling you. And it's just like I said, it's just getting more and more outlandish, like to the point where you're like, is this an SNL skit or is this our lives?
Right.
It's insane. It just keeps getting worse and worse. And
There's a great book that came out recently. I'm trying to remember the name of the author. I think it's Rebecca something, I think. But the book is called The Future.
oh,
And do you remember the book The Power that was about like women who like suddenly had electrical power and it kind of
oh
changed the
yeah,
whole
I
gender
did.
dynamic?
Yeah.
It's that author, right? Um,
Oh,
maybe it's Stephanie. I don't
I'll
know.
look it up.
I'll look it up, but it's called The Future, and
Okay.
it is great. It is a great,
Really?
like quasi sci-fi, but sort of more dystopian, like
Mm,
near future sort of
right up
thing.
my alley.
But it's really almost entirely about billionaires and their bad behavior, right?
Oh
And
my
like
God.
kind of what they're building behind the scenes.
Right.
And she wrote it, a couple years ago at this point, and I remember reading it and being like, "Oh my god, this is so close to reality. It feels like it could be real, but whew, thank God it isn't."
At the time. Yeah.
At the time, right? And now
Mm.
I look at it, I'm kind of like, actually, I do kind of think maybe they're
Oh my God.
conspiring to have a
Yeah.
kill off so that,
Yeah. Yeah.
like maybe they
Yeah.
are that crazy.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. I mean, even just with the plans that Russ Vogt, Project 2025, all of the things that they have put like in plain writing,
Yeah,
we know what that is going to cause and what it seems like they want it to cause, like this mass killing off of many people that they deem as useless eaters.
right.
It's disgusting.
Yeah,
Absolutely disgusting.
this is not astrological. This is not
Right.
anything. Oh God, yeah. Somebody just said Octavia Butler's books, Parable of the Sower. Exactly.
Mm,
There
yeah.
is, I have this really bad feeling that, like I'm going to sound like I should go get my tinfoil hat. I need to make a
I
tinfoil
put that
hat.
on sometimes too.
But like, there's a piece of me that's kind of like, if I was a terrible, terrible, terrible person, I would look at COVID as a test run.
Mm,
And, you know, I'm pretty sure they do stuff in these labs. I mean, we know they do stuff in these labs.
yeah.
I mean, I had a fucked up Friday news story a couple months ago about someone has taken, God, I don't remember what the disease was. I think it was a flu. I think it was just like a
Okay.
common flu. And in the lab, right,
Oh my
to
God.
study transmission of the flu, they engineered it so that it was extremely transmissible and extremely deadly.
Oh
And
my
I may
God.
be getting like it may not be the flu, it may be, I don't know,
Right.
salmonella or something else, but
Mm,
it's highly contagious and highly deadly. And I was kind of thinking like, how much do I believe that Trump and Musk and Xi Jinping and Putin and all the worst people in the world
right.
don't have some dastardly plan to introduce, like, I don't know, super measles or
Absolutely.
whatever,
Who
y-
knows?
And
Yeah.
yeah, I
And I
don't know.
understand there's a lot of people that are like, oh, conspiracy theory. And the second somebody makes any suggestion like this, because of course, like none of us have like factual proof that this is true.
Right.
However, I'm not one to like poo poo any of those speculations because, a conspiracy is just like, two or more people that have any plans unbeknownst to another group of people. I mean, this is happening constantly.
Right.
My God, it happens like in your office at work. there's like conspiracies. Of
Oh, yeah.
course
No,
there are
my 2 cats have
conspiracies.
a conspiracy against me to raid the treats, constantly.
Exactly.
It's called
So
Treatgate.
right. Oh, it's so cute. My cat's right over here. Oh my god, I love him. But the thing is, yeah, conspiracies are happening all the time, and I do not put anything past these people. Of course, they have conspiracies. Of course, they're always like trying to hatch plans against us, like at the expense of us.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt that at all. That they would do something that
Yeah,
dangerous.
I feel like, I know we're kind of coming up on an hour
Yes,
and I guess what I would say is, when I look at all of this stuff astrologically, like this is a period of such intense transformation that I kind of feel like I want to start this thing called the Imagination Project. I bought the domain name,
oh,
theimaginationproject.com, which I kind of can't believe it was still available, but it was. Um, and I kind of want it to be about like two things, right? One is let's think of every insane, crazy plan that they could possibly do to try to fuck up American democracy so that we can never be accused of having a lack of imagination about how dastardly they will be, right? Because I feel like that's what caught us flat footed these
I
last 10
love this.
years was,
Yes,
we were like, well, sure. But he's never actually going to rally people into a giant insurrection to try to overthrow the election results. And then he does it, and we're all
mhm,
kind of like, or really,
right.
or he did. The other piece of it, I kind of want to, I want to imagine every crazy thing that could happen that is not within our control that we could kind of plan for. And then the third piece of it is I want to imagine the future that we want, right? Like,
This
what
is
is a
important.
project 2025
Yes,
that is more like, a project 2100
yes.
that is, I want to live in, a country, whether or not it's still called the United States of America, where we are all truly equal and where
Right.
we have body autonomy, right? And where, extractive capitalism is not the thing that is running our economy, that we, can collaborate and, so I want to kind of do all those things. But
I love this idea.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah. In
absolutely.
all my
I
spare
would love
time,
to be
I'm going to
part
get
of
it
it.
off the ground.
I know, right? Yeah, with like all the stuff that you're doing, you're so busy.
Right.
But I love this idea because I think that lack of imagination is a real problem.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, this is really interesting that you say this about imagining a government that we want. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine not that long ago, and I was like, I mean, that's also another thing that's very concerning to me is like what happened with the French Revolution, right? And then they went through the Reign of Terror and all of that chaos and all
Yeah.
of this back and forth. And then Napoleon, like the rise of Napoleon, so if you don't figure out what the hell you want, like what kind of government and what kind of society you want, we better start getting busy and figuring that out.
Yeah.
Like that's something that is so important that I don't hear many people talk about.
Right, exactly, right? Like,
Yeah,
we're all kind of like, "Oh, everything currently sucks and we
yes,
need to do something different." Cool. What is it?
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
"Oh, is it everyone can vote and you can vote online and it's super easy? Great. How do we protect that vote? How do we make
Correct.
sure Russia can never hack it?" Right?
Yup.
And
Yeah,
so my last thing that I'm gonna say
yeah,
is I don't know why I'm feeling so compelled to say this out loud right now, but kind of in the realm of thinking about everything that could possibly go wrong, um, there's this thing called the Carrington event of 1859. Do you know about this? Okay,
yes.
yay.
Please, please.
So in 1859, there were, the sun goes through sunspot cycles and solar flares are more active or less active, depending. There's a massive, massive, massive coronal mass ejection solar flare in 1859,
Mhm.
and it hit the earth full on, which they don't normally do. And it activated the aurora borealis like crazy. Like for the first 2 days, apparently, the aurora was not just like nice pinks and greens. It was every color of the rainbow, and it was down to the equator. Like every place on the planet had an aurora for 3 days straight.
Wow.
And when it hit, it blew every telegraph station, every,
Mhm.
the rudimentary telegraph network and power network that was being built in the country at that time and around the world, everything blew,
Mhm.
right? Like And actually, what happened was the lines were supercharged, and for a time, every telegraph operator could talk to every other telegraph operator without current,
Ah,
because so much current was going through the lines.
wow.
If something similar were to happen now, it would blow every power transformer in the country, of which there are hundreds of thousands. And then you ask yourself, how long would it take to replace every power transformer in the country? And the answer is, we don't know. It's an
Yeah.
infinite amount of time because we don't have a fraction of the number that we need to replace them. Like every town or state or jurisdiction has like one or two on hand, maybe. And we're
Right.
talking about replacing hundreds of thousands. The places that make power transformers now are China,
Of
right?
course.
We don't make them here anymore. And if another Carrington event happened right now, like not only, I mean, there would be mass casualty, tragic events, right? Like
Yep.
power would go out, people in
Oh my
hospitals would
God.
die,
God
planes
forbid.
would fall out of the sky, like really, truly bad stuff. And then we would also be in a place where we didn't know what was happening at the national level.
Hmm.
We wouldn't know. I mean, with a Carrington like event, we would see at least see the aurora and be like, okay, well, cool. It wasn't a nuclear blast. It wasn't an
Right.
EMP,
Right. Yeah.
but it could be a Chinese EMP could knock out every transformer on the eastern seaboard or something and put us, like we just again, I don't know why I'm being called to mention that one specifically, but like we need to think about all the wackadoodle shit that could
That's
happen
absolutely true.
so that we can think about, okay, well, maybe Dr. G, your weirdo friend, right? They have this kind of theory they call the daisy chain of how to create a robust and self-healing help and mutual aid network in your community.
That's a great
And they
idea.
call it the daisy chain. It's really brilliant.
Mhm.
And like, we'll need to start doing that because
Absolutely. And get
we're going to
serious.
need it for the coming revolution,
Yep.
apparently, but also
Yep.
because any kind of crazy wackadoodle thing could happen that we're going to need it for.
Yes. I'm down. I am down for that, Lawrence. So whatever you're proposing, you put something together. I
I
definitely want
mean,
to be on
yeah, I
board.
don't know what I'm proposing yet, but like,
Okay,
like
let's do it
we should
then.
all do it.
Yeah, yes, yes. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much, Lawrence. We're a little bit over an hour,
Yeah.
and I want to
Thank you
respect
so much,
everybody's
Lisa. This
time.
is so fun.
Oh, I love it. I hope we could do another one soon, and because
Anytime.
there's
You name
always
it.
things. Yes, there's always things that we could talk about for sure. But I'm so happy that I was able to share this astrology, our love of astrology together
Yes.
tonight.
And come back on the Daily Whatever show anytime.
Yes, absolutely. I'll DM you. We'll talk and we'll figure it out because I love talking to you and Dana. And thank you everybody so much for joining us this evening,
Thanks,
for spending
everyone.
your evening with us. And we will see you soon, guys. Okay, have a good rest of your night. Bye
Bye.
bye.